we see a note being passed in a classroom setting. And if we're talking music videos, we're talking the J Giles Band Centerfold. So hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles, you bugger. My name is John, his name is Andy. But I've been waiting for you just to say the soft-tooth chigger's mine. But all I know is you got no money. That's got nothing to do with a good time. More on that later. But first, we have a track to listen to, selected by Andy. Andy, what's up to listen to today?
Nailed the dismount. Today we are going to be doing a track called Art School, and it is by a band called Remo Drive. I would assume you have no knowledge of these guys going into this?
No?
Okay, fair play. Makes sense. All right, well, please give Remo Drive a try, and let us know what you think of their track Art School, John.
Okie dokie. Sorry, but passing notes in a classroom for a music video just straight away. J. Giles Band, Centerfold. I apologise, let's get that out of my head straight away. Next thing you know, it'll be Saved by the Bell, Britney's debut. Short song. So yeah, interesting start with that feedback, and then sort of that riff coming in and the stop. Pretty catchy, nice sort of fuzzy bass to it as well. 3-piece. We often comment how much power 3-pieces tend to sort of generate. No mistake there. And then singer comes in. He's got a slightly whiny voice. It's quite up there in register, which is fine. But yeah, it makes it. I was getting like every other word. So I look around and something about ground, and yeah, and then it was a bit clearer. Art school coloured hair, too cool for me, but that's fair. Like you said. But that was, I guess, was the verse, and it's just like 2 chords from the guitar, and then the rest of the work's being done by the vocal melody and the drums and the bass. It just felt a little bit thin, considering the sort of the impact of the intro at the start. The video is really distracting because they're doing all sorts of shite, you know. You got a bit of sort of Janet Jackson, Rhythm Nation sort of group formation going on. Bit of Breakfast Club, I guess, and the aforementioned Saved by the Bell, and all sorts of other nonsense. They're clearly having loads of fun. For a first time viewing and reaction, it's a bit distracting, so I should try to ignore it and just concentrate on the song.
My pants on fire, talking so confident. My small empire My label peeling.
Okay, so that was weird. So you get this segue portion that was much sort of heavier and more expansive sound. It was quite interesting. But it was just a passing point really for the rest of the song. It comes back with that verse again, which I think is repeating the first verse. And it sounds even sort of thinner and milder. But I think it's supposed to drop down, but in contrast, so it does. And then it's just got this like 4 or 5 notes from the bass just coming out of the top, plunking away. Yeah, interesting.
Look around in auto sound. You see a body. Right few feet on the ground. My label peeling. Art school.
Oh, this is heavier.
Covered hair. Too cool for me, but that's fair. Lay down, I lie again. My pants on fire. Talking so confident. My small empire. My van. Somewhere in Dinky. My bad. Shoulda knew you're busy.
Okay, fair enough. I guess there must have been a segue into the next track on the album or something. So it's a really abrupt ending. Although the bit before it was this sort of spaced out, sort of thoughtful. Yeah. I think the last verse, when you call it, I think they went through, there's kind of, you call that art school bit that was really clear, maybe the chorus, but first verse, that art school bit, then another bit, and then they repeat it all again. And by the time we got to the last bit, they'd also the fuzziness included in the verse there, and it sounded full. And what I kind of expected it to be right at the very start. So yeah, interesting. It's a little bit bitty for me and a bit choppy, but then like a 3 and a bit minute song. It just always felt like it was changing direction without going anywhere. Maybe that's a bit harsh. It's a first reaction, but yeah, it just felt like it was chopping, and it finally established itself right at the end, and then stopped. So yeah, interesting sound. It's a bit more. Let's go back and chop it up with Andy.
All right, so you are back from your Remo drive. What did you think while attending art school, John?
So interestingly enough, I did attend art school, but we call it college in this country because it's not school. I presume it's along the same lines as Spinal Tap's bitch school. So song starts, and I apologise, but for the initial few seconds, we see a note being passed in a classroom setting. And if we're talking music videos, we're talking the J Giles Band Centerfold. So very quickly have to try and scrub that from my mind before we also get images of Britney's debut song and Saved by the Bell joining their mental image casserole. So we start again. this opens with some nice feedback that continues to squirm as the drums join in. The visuals are not helping exercise the ghost of Save the Bell or their eminently punchable characters. Floppy blonde drummer, I'm looking at you. But the other two were definite candidates as well. I think the lead singer would make a very decent pinata. Janet Jackson Rhythm Nation group dancing routines aside, we get this catchy riff with a nicely fuzzy bass, and it has all the punch of a three-piece that we often talk about when we get them on this channel. For some reason, they seem to be much more punchy three pieces. I don't know why, but with less people, but it works. So we get a brief, we get a sort of like hooky riff, and then we get a brief stutter stop, which is made sure that we notice it by the bass player, and then we're into the first verse. This is an unmistakable sort of quirky beginning that can only come from the land of corn dogs and fluffer nutter sandwiches. The vocalist slash guitarist opines, and I'm not trying to be, but there's a little bit of a hint of a whine to his voice that makes me believe that this is another song that would come under the classification of emo. At Broad Church. So yeah, he starts off, and as he sings, and he's at a slightly higher register as well. I got look around in something or other, see bodies, great view, something ground, my label peeling. None the wiser. But anyway, thanks for playing. This music during the verse is strange because it has a 2-chord hit to the guitar. And it feels like the guitar is almost like in a holding pattern, while the bass and the vocal melody do all the heavy lifting for the verse side. It does also give the drums a chance to dominate as well, and the rhythm has a very strong identity as opposed to the sort of a melody of the instruments. He then, which I presume is the chorus because of the line, and it's really clear this bit: art school, coloured hair, too cool for me, but that's fair, I think it is. So I believe he's talking about someone else who attends an art school, and they are cosmopolitan because of the dye they use on their head, which is great. So we then get this climbing motif from the guitar. This is all very brief because it's such a short song. And then it goes back into that restrained 2-chord action. And I think because of the quite raucous opening and intro, I was kind of expecting a bit more from the verse in terms of musically. And as I'm thinking this, I hear him say the line, "My pants on fire," which made me laugh. As the verse ends, we get another blast of that opening riff and another half stop. And this pattern emerges again and again. But each time they come back, the music now is slightly heavier. And at this point, then get a segue bridge, whatever you want to call it, with some very spacious, heavier sounding chords, which are ably supported by very robust drums. I really like this sound. But as soon as it appears, it kind of then disappears very quickly. And we're back to, I think it's the first verse repeating itself again. I think what they do is actually, there's a first verse, there's a chorusy bit, there's another verse, and then all three are repeated again, I think.
Yeah.
Again, because when it comes back, I think the drums drop out briefly. So when it comes back, it's just the guitar 2-chordy bit and him singing. So it sounds really light, which I guess is the idea with the comparison before. But then we have this very strange thing for about a second and a half of the bass twanging over the top. And it almost sounds like a completely different channel and a different master volume level. It's really almost in your face, but it's so quick. It's there and it's gone. It's like subliminal advertising that, boop, and it's got this bang, 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 that's it, very strange. The article section also returns, but this time there's this added bedrock of like fuzziness from the sound of the guitars over it. And I think each time they add a bit more to the sound, they end up with the final section after a mini stop. That quirky riff going round and round. It's when it becomes more fuller, I enjoy it more. I think it felt a bit sort of thin at the start. So then we get that quirky riff again going round a couple of times before this weird spaced out introspective section, which then cuts off, which I guess is a segue into the next track. So yeah, I thought this song was a little bit bitty. And the really hooky riff thing is a really nice riff, but it feels like a transitional piece of music, like it's there to move you from one bit to another rather than hang your hat on it. And I think the core, the verse, I see what they did. But for me, it didn't quite work until it was full, but they were filling it out as they went along with the song and changing it and the stop starting the quirkiness. I would see this going down really well with certain people. It didn't quite land with me. It was decent enough, don't get me wrong, but it just felt like it wasn't getting there. When it got there, it stopped. So that's my gripe, as it were, with it.
Yeah.
But the elements and the sounds were all good. And actually, joking aside about Floppy Blonde Guy, the drumming, I think, was a highlight for me. It was really robust and he kept it all together really well.
Yeah.
I did like the sound of the bass. I did like the guitar when it attacked rather than was just sort of holding. And the even floppier head vocalist had a certain presence, which I would see as a draw for some people as well. The thing about the video which I liked was they were clearly having a lot of fun and there's a great sense of humor there. It was and it's rare for me to say this is the sort of thing you say, but it was a bit much as a first listen. I would have to watch it again and enjoy the video separately, just because there was so much going on that I wouldn't be able to concentrate on the music. But it is pouncing around with this sword and everything, and they're terrible dancing. And the bit where they're all group dancing is just hilariously stupid, because I always thought that was hilariously stupid, but it's done properly by Janet Jackson at the apex of a diamond or whatever. They're all doing that, absolute fucking nonsense. And then you see the girls running through the corridor thing, and I'm just thinking like, boarding for Columbine or something going on.
Oh God.
Which is a great thought to have either. So yeah, there's a lot going on in there, and I like they put so much into it. So yeah, but I will enjoy it a second time when I can watch it properly and then asking about.
Fair play. And I was really torn between giving you this or the audio tree version, but the audio tree version is this and another song, the one that follows it. Like, there's no break in between. They transition.
They go into it. Yeah.
So it'd be
which makes sense if they do that in the.
Yeah. Exactly. So, another thing. One, this band really reminds me in a lot of ways of Lovejoy. Normal people things, all these other tracks that we've done by those guys on this channel. They're from over there. These guys are from here. So it's just funny that they have the same kind of playful, their videos are goofball-y. We had a lot of that with remember the portraits from like the early 90s where you're one's facing this way and one's facing this way and they're all wearing horrible sweaters and shit like that. It's a lot of that poking fun at that is going on. I think similarly in this video as well, where they're having fun with it. Go ahead.
I mean, this shows my age, and they're not sound the same, but I thought like they might be giants or something like that. That sort of weird quirkiness.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's some of that there as well. Absolutely, and some of the bands that that they bring up as inspirations, I think there's some correlative, connection points there as well. The other thing, and probably the least important, was I was waiting for you after seeing that bass player on the first close-up to be like, is that a young Stephen Merchant? Because he kind of looks like a young Stephen Merchant even to me. I'm like, oh,
Really?
he's got some qualities to him. They're kind of similar to, Gervais's right-hand man's there. So, but yeah, let me get into one other thing, because you mentioned this, the drummer. Um, a lot of the stuff going on with this band, really, there's a lot of stuff around surrounding the drummer and their turnover at that position, and the
Ooh,
back and
Spinal
forth, and
Tap.
a lot of drama surrounding that position. But this guy, Mathis, their drummer, he went to like there's like an actual school of rock in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and
All
he
right.
went there at like a prodigy like age, like 6 years old, 7 years old, to the point where by the time he was like 9, he was playing in the school's top band with teenagers as their drummer. He was taught by guys who learned at the foot of Buddy Rich, classic jazz drummer, and so he was a classically trained jazz drummer. And it's just when they lost him, I feel like they kind of took a hit with their fans, because their fans adored their original drummer. So let me get into the band. Remo Drive is an American rock band from Bloomington, Minnesota, and are currently signed to Epitaph Records. The band released their first full length album titled Greatest Hits on March 16th, 2017. Their second studio album, Natural Everyday Degradation, was released on May 31st, 2019. Their third, A Portrait of an Ugly Man, was released on June 26, 2020, and their fourth, Mercy, was released February 23rd of 2024. Remo Drive's earlier work is typically described as emo that incorporates elements of dance punk, post-hardcore, and in some tracks and recordings, grunge and punk rock, influenced by bands like Title Fight, which we've covered a couple times on the channel, Jeff Rosenstock, Vampire Weekend, and Weezer. In recent years, the group has progressed into a more indie rock inspired sound with influence from power pop, indie folk, chamber pop, classic rock, and hard rock. The band has listed a number of acts as influences, including Queens of the Stone Age, Father John Misty, The Killers, Interpol, and the Beach Boys. Remo Drive began in 2013 when brothers Eric and Steven Paulson, so that's the singer and the bass player, are brothers. They were in high school, and they noticed other bands, or pardon me, other students walking around wearing shirts of this band Title Fight, and they were introduced to their music through mutual friends. Eric and Steven both got interested in the band and decided that they wanted to pursue something similar in their own music. They had previously played in a handful of other bands throughout high school, but never had a solidified lineup, temporarily recruiting friends and switching around instruments for whenever they performed live. The band first earned its name when bassist Steven Paulson decided to spontaneously incorporate the drum brand Remo with a band name. Thus, you have Remo Drive. The band subsequently started recording demos in 2013, also known as EP1. Without a designated drummer in the band, the two brothers both recorded drums themselves for the first release. This EP was later taken down from the internet a few months later, again leaving the band without any publicly available music. Stephen later met original drummer Sam Mathis while they were both in a different band, and quickly recruited him for Remo Drive. In late 2014, the band released a compilation of songs on Bandcamp under the name Demos 2014. These recordings were the band's first time recording with Mathis, and compiled two previously released EPs, Away and Stay Out Longer, as well as various demos recorded throughout the year that the group would burn into CDs and hand out at shows. In 2015, Mathis left the band due to creative differences, and Eric met the band's second drummer, Austin Voigt, through playing in a band called Closer to Yellow. The same year, Remo Drive released their first music on a record label with the EP Wait for the Sun on Lost State Records, along with splits with the bands Unturned and Weathered. The band's 7-inch single, Breathe In Stroke Perfume, was later released the same year on Really Bad Records and Endless Bummer Records. In early 2016, Voigt left the band due to personal hardship, but remained on good terms with the brothers, while Mathis amended relationships with the two and rejoined the band. In March 2016, the band began working on their first LP. The band approached the writing process for this album differently from their previous work, feeling that their previous music was too derivative and similar to other emo bands, and instead pursued creating their own unique sound while also taking inspiration from a wider range of different genres and artists, incorporating sounds from the decades such as the 1970s and 80s, in an attempt to pull musical inspiration from places uncommon to the emo genre. In March 2017, Remo Drive self-released their first full-length album, the aforementioned Greatest Hits, featuring the tracks You're Killing Me, Art School, and Crash Test Rating. Upon its release, the album rapidly gained critical success and earned the band a larger audience. Sputnik described the band as revitalizing the things that truly make this genre so special, while punknews.org wrote that Greatest Hits was an exhilarating 37 minutes and praised its youthful energy. Anthony Fontano, over at the Needle Drop, similarly praised the album's quality, memorable hooks, and fun, explosive performances, describing it as a good debut album that has been turning heads. Throughout the year, adding that since it seems like the band is getting quite a bit of attention off of this record, hopefully they can springboard off of this into something even better. And over at Sputnik Music, the album has been graded by 276 different users, and it now sits at an aggregated score of 3.7 out of 5, which earns the site's great designation. Jack Beatson of The Review reviewed the album upon its release and wrote, "Greatest Hits is an excellent collection of tracks that seem to flow effortlessly into one another. Although Paulson's vocals are a pleasant inclusion, the main focus of a good portion of the record is on its instruments. Remo Drive has managed to craft a record that is both incredibly accessible to outsiders and exceedingly satisfying to their niche market." Adding of this track, the most recently released single Art School opens up the album in an upbeat poppy track fueled by fuzzy guitar riffs and vocalist guitarist Eric Paulson's crooning voice. His melodies and lyrics are infectiously catchy and act more so as a complement to the instrumental rather than the other way around. So, these lyrics. And you're right, it's just like cut and paste one after the other. So this appears twice, but I'm only going to be, reading it once. Look around in awe, no sound. A sea of bodies. Great view, feet on the ground. My label peeling. Art school. Colored hair. Too cool. For me, but that's fair. Lay down, I lie again. My pants on fire. Talking so confident. My small empire. My band. Somewhere in Dinky. My bad. Shoulda knew you're busy. On August 3rd, 2017, the band released a live album, Remo Drive, at Audio Tree Live, as I mentioned earlier, recorded with Audio Tree while they were on tour. But by December of 2017, Remo Drive began to go through major internal changes, and Sam Mathis was privately removed as a member of the band. This was part of the band's upcoming transition to being signed by a major record label. On February 10th, 2018, Mathis publicly announced on social media that he had been removed as a member of Remo Drive in December of 2017. The Paulson brothers followed with their own statement, stating that the situation did not work for the three of us as a band, and cited creative differences as the reason for their break with Mathis once again. Later that month, on February 23rd, 2018, the band announced that they had signed with Epitaph Records. This announcement came alongside the release of a single, Blue Ribbon, from their EP Pop Music, which was released on March 19th, and this would be the last Remo Drive release to feature Sam Mathis on drums. And it's funny because some of their diehards will post it's funny because Greatest Hits was their greatest hits, and they attribute it to Mathis's terrific drumming throughout the album. So yeah, a bit of a polarizing move with their diehards parting ways with Mathis. But this is a fun song. It is a fun album. I don't think it's, for me, I don't think it's meant to be taken too seriously. It's just a fun listen. So just wanted to have you check it out. And yeah, I didn't even, God, it's so morbid. God, I hate our reputation sometimes here, oftentimes. But the visage of American high school to anyone from not that isn't American, and the first thing they think of is some of the worst shit out there, like mass shootings and stuff like that. It's pretty fucked up.
Well, I mean, I guess there was a bit of the Breakfast Club vibe going on as well in that.
Yes, I try
But
to
when
think of
you
those '80s movies that were all centered around, that
yeah,
kind of setting. Yeah, just one of the
but when
guys and all that.
but then when you see them in slow motion running through the halls, I get elephant as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Sadly,
yeah.
yeah,
No, it's fair.
unintentional,
It's
of
earned.
course, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Well, I do appreciate you giving this track a spin, John, and your thoughts on it. So thank you so much for that, buddy.
yeah, no
And
problem.
guys out there in the listening audience, please let us know what you thought of this track, Art School by Remo Drive. If there's other stuff by the band we should check out, if you happen to be a fan of them and you're checking in on this and you want to hear our reaction, feel free to shout it down in the comment field below. Also, please like, share, and or subscribe if you haven't done any or all of those things. We really do appreciate it. Thank you so much in advance. And hopefully, John and I will catch all y'all in growing numbers on the next installment of the Audio Files. We'll see you later, guys.